Hi, welcome to Holistically Speaking. My name is Morella Devost, and I've been your host on the show for the last few interviews, and today we have a little bit of a different show. I am a holistic nutritionist myself with a private practice, and today I'm joined by Don Bateman. We are team members here on the show, and we've been talking about detoxification, spring cleansing. Recently, since it is the spring just got started, and we thought that it would be a great idea to have a show dedicated to spring cleansing and spring detoxification. There are a lot of people offering programs, offering products out there, and we thought that it would be great to bring you, our viewers, some information, some tips, some ideas, and just a little bit of support if you're considering doing a cleanse yourself, if you're feeling, or curious even, if you're feeling that this might be the time for you to maybe step into this world. We wanted to bring you some information about that. So thank you, Don, for joining me. And what Don's going to be helping us with, or what you're going to be helping me with, is voicing some of the questions that I often get. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you want to jump in and ask me a question, and we'll go from there?
Sure. I was curious, why would anyone want to do a detox? Generally, people aren't crazy about dieting and stuff like that. Why would anyone want to do a detox?
Yeah, that is really a great question to start with. I often do hear that, like, why detox? This isn't something that I've ever heard of before, or even growing up, nobody was talking about detoxification. Why are we doing this? You know, why is it so popular now? A lot of times I get people not so much wanting to detox, but almost feeling like maybe my body needs this. So oftentimes people have a little bit more of anxiety more than feeling gung-ho about doing it. So you know, there's a little bit of hesitation sometimes. But I think the people who are being drawn to look at cleansing their bodies is because they're becoming more and more aware of what we've done to the environment around us. If you think about it, back in the day, you know, our great-grandparents or grandparents weren't living in the environment that we're living in today. You know, I was just writing a little note for myself, reminding myself that we have created an environment where we have been introducing chemicals into our environment on a consistent basis. Every year there are over 30,000 chemicals that are introduced into the household products that we used, into our furnishings, the building materials that we use, the paint products. All of these chemical substances are now in our environment in greater numbers than they ever were. So we have to look at the stuff that we're putting in our food, in our water, in our shampoo, in our deodorant and toothpaste, all of these things that are, only a fraction of them are really tested for toxicity, but the majority really aren't. And so I often tell people, yes, we're born with a liver, and we're born with kidneys and skin and a colon to remove toxins from the body, but it's only in the last century and a half that we've had this unbelievable amount of this barrage of chemicals that's really burdening our body. So we now really need to actively detoxify, whereas naturally the body would just do it on its own. Now we're just introducing so much that we need to take a break and give our body the support that it needs to just focus on cleaning the sludge out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. It's for anyone, not just people with health conditions or athletes.
Exactly. It is for anyone. And you're right. You know, a lot of times people hear, especially the word detoxification. When I first started doing my detox program with my clients 7 years ago, and I would use the word detoxification, what most people heard was, wait, isn't detoxification something you do in rehab for substance abuse? That's what people most often thought about, you know, or very concrete health issues. It's all of us. And one of the most startling pieces of evidence around it is that recently some doctors took samples, blood samples of the umbilical cord of 15 babies. They took randomly selected 15 different babies, and they took samples of the umbilical cord blood.
Here in America?
Here in America, and they tested it for chemicals. And all 15 babies had traces of chemicals, and almost all of them had traces of over 200 different chemicals in the umbilical cord blood. So what's startling about that is if it's in the umbilical cord blood and it's being passed on to the babies, it's in every cell of our bodies. And it's everywhere. And so I was actually listening to a conference a couple of weeks ago by some doctors working on fertility, and they're saying that their hypothesis is that the heavy levels of toxicity that we're dealing with are partly responsible for some of the fertility issues that a lot of people are having. And a lot of the trouble with pregnancies and neonatal problems and even behavior problems in children and all of this that's looking like epidemics. And they're looking at, could it be toxicity? So, I think that we can be proactive and say, let's take a break and clean out our body.
What are the, what would you say, have you seen any immediate results, like right after one detox, or what type of results could people be expecting from a detox?
You absolutely can see results from the very first time you take.
Really?
Yeah. And this is how I became passionate about detoxification myself, because I was dealing with my own health issues in my 20s and early 30s and feeling really perplexed. And this is when I started taking it on my own to figure out, why is my skin always so bad? I had horrendous acne. And one of the very first things that I did, I learned about a juice cleanse. And I only did 2 days of juicing, where it was mostly juicing. I bought a juicer for that. It was the best investment I made, really simple juicer. And I had it for years and years. And I spent 2 days doing juicing and some salads. And I noticed in 2 days a dramatic difference in my skin. And so I was convinced. That completely turned me into really looking at food. What was I putting in my body? What else could I eliminate from my environment, from my food, so that I could continue helping my body cleanse? So from the very first cleanse, you will notice some improvements.
Cool. Yeah, that must be a nice alternative. I see some of these commercials on acne medication, for example, and say it may cause death and suicide, or it's
my
like,
gosh,
I don't think juice would make you feel that way.
No, juice isn't quite as dramatic as that. But things like juicing is just one tool. What I like to do is help people think about what are some of the basics for detoxification. What are the basic elements that you need? And I have the 5 core essentials of detoxification, and a lot of different programs will incorporate this in different ways. The first one is water, and drinking an incredible amount of water.
What is that? What would you call an incredible amount of water?
An incredible amount of water, this is a lot for most people, is you take your body weight and divide that in half. You divide that in 2, and that's the number of ounces of water that you would drink a day at minimum. Okay. So let's say that you weigh 180 pounds, then that means you would be drinking 90 ounces of water a day. So for some people, when they first hear that number, they think, oh my God, I'm barely getting 2 glasses of water, if that. And so it can be a stretch. But importantly, it needs to be really good quality, clean water, because that's the other thing that we often don't pay attention to, is where's our water coming from? Am I getting the best quality water that I could get? So if you're drinking tap water, you want to look at, can I get a really good filter? Getting really good quality water. So flushing your body out with water is a crucial key element.
Nice.
Being fully hydrated. The second one, and this I love because this is all about greens, and it's all about the spring. So why is typically spring the time when we do the most, get the most focus and attention on cleansing? And it's because spring provides all of the right elements that are required for cleansing. It's when the greens start to sprout. Water is running abundantly from the mountains. So from in both Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, so these ancient healing traditions, they've been doing detoxification for millennia, and it's always in the spring. always in the spring.
Well, that makes sense. And you can
Yeah.
grow your own garden and your own vegetables and to
Yeah.
juice and such.
Yeah, you may not be growing so many vegetables at that point, but you know, you can harvest some greens, you know, think like fiddleheads. We start to get fiddleheads in the spring.
Yeah.
You know, these really dark greens that sprout from nature, they're incredibly healing. And in Chinese medicine, green is the color that heals the liver. So the liver is associated with the color green, and all foods that are green are linked to are liver healing foods. They're seen as liver healing foods.
Nice.
So greens, eating lots and lots of greens is to me the second element of any good cleansing program.
Okay.
Chlorophyll is like the substance of life, and so getting lots of chlorophyll is what's going to nourish the liver and help the liver regenerate. And when you help the liver regenerate, it just starts, you know, cleaning everything out much more effectively. So you have to start with those two.
Sure. Okay.
The third one has to do with fiber, because fiber is going to be what's going to move things through your colon and get you moving things out quickly. You know, we have lymph nodes and a lymph system throughout our body that's kind of clearing the sludge at a cellular level and kind of moving it up towards your core. And so that empties into your colon, and so you want to be moving your colon through. You don't want to have things sitting and festering in your colon. So people sometimes, it's funny because I ask people, how regular are you? And they might say, oh, I'm pretty regular. You know, I go every couple days. You know, I have a bowel movement every couple days. That's not regular enough, especially when you're cleansing. You need to be thinking of a couple times a day, at least, to be moving things out quickly. Your liver also empties with bile into your intestines, so you know you're kind of clearing things out quickly by moving fiber through your colon. So things like flaxseed, ground flaxseed, or psyllium husks are great for helping to clean the colon out. That's the third thing.
Sure.
The fourth thing is lots and lots of color. So we already have lots of green, which is the cornerstone, right? But then adding reds and purples, and you know, from berries or
so a large
peppers.
variety of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, and getting really rich pigments and spices, things like turmeric, you know,
Okay.
that yellow spice
Cayenne.
in curry, and cayenne,
Yeah.
because all of those powerful pigments in nature have shown to be the most potent antioxidants and anti-inflammatory
Really?
agents that we know of. And we don't even know how they work so well. You know, our kind of modern understanding of nutrition is vitamins, minerals. We're starting to understand some of these, what are called phytochemicals, a little better. But it's, you know, these pigments, like what makes blueberries blue or grapes purple, or, you know, if you've heard of acai, it's a purple.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a purple, like Brazilian fruit that was all the rage for a while. And
Have you tried it?
yeah, and it's very tart, and because it's very high in antioxidants. So all of these rich pigments, purples, yellows, oranges, curry, the spice turmeric, is an incredible anti-inflammatory agent. I once had a client doing my detox program, and she had a ganglion cyst. Do you know what those are? They're like,
sounds awful though.
it can be painful. It's like a cyst on your wrist or your ankle. They typically form in joints, and they can be really painful, and they need to be surgically removed. So she had one on her ankle while she was doing the cleanse, and she had other signs of high inflammation. So I told her, take some turmeric. And so she was taking turmeric every single day, and she started noticing, she thought that the ganglion was going away. And after the third week, she was watching TV with her husband one night, and she looked down at her ankle, and it was totally gone.
Wow.
Completely gone. So she had to call to cancel her surgery. That's how powerful some of these.
Must have been a nice phone call.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Is detox ever dangerous, would you say? Or it sounds like it wouldn't be, but.
Yeah, that's a great question. It can be, absolutely.
Huh.
There
Under what circumstances
absolutely
would-
can be the wrong time to cleanse. You know, I actually got started creating a program quite a few years ago because I had a friend who jumped into a lemonade cleanse, from eating Big Macs one day and jumped into a lemonade cleanse, and she started feeling really, really sick.
That's where all you eat is like lemon juice and cayenne pepper and
right.
salt or something?
Yeah, maple syrup, lemon juice, and cayenne pepper.
Oh, I see.
And
for how long did he do that?
So 10 days is what they recommend.
Oh, okay.
Some people do longer than that.
It's quite a fast.
It is a significant fast, and all you're giving your body is really sugar to run on. So, and that's really not the kind of cleanse that I recommend at all. So for people who have blood sugar issues, that is absolutely the wrong fast, the wrong cleanse to do. Because then if they have a blood sugar issue, they're just feeding their body sugar, and they're making it more sugar dependent. You can make some things worse when you jump into the wrong cleanse in the wrong way. I am very cautious when women are pregnant or breastfeeding. I think the body is very wise in keeping toxins away, stored away when pregnant or breastfeeding. I think if women are looking to be pregnant, then you do a cleanse before planning to get pregnant to get your body really clean and ready as much as you can, but not to be releasing more toxins into your bloodstream as you're pregnant or breastfeeding. And people who are severely sick, they need to do, you can do a cleanse. You can always do a cleanse, but you wanna do it in a more maybe gradual, supported way, not jump into like a master cleanse. Like I said, I was just recently doing I'm just coming off of my own cleanse. And in the group that I was with, there was a couple women who were pregnant or breastfeeding, and they did great, but they were doing something that was much more modified, much more subtle. One of the women who was breastfeeding, she was actually doing great with one breast, but the other breast was not flowing so well, and she was actually having quite a bit of pain. And her baby was, colicky and all that, and she did a really gentle cleanse, and the other breast started producing really well, and she had no pain, and the baby was doing a lot better.
Nice.
But there are different ways.
Sure.
So people need to be mindful of that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was curious of the fifth element you had suggested.
Yes, thank
water,
you. I was going to say,
greens,
I have 5.
Fiber and high
So it was
pigments.
water, greens, fiber, color, and then the last one is enzymes. Eating and enzymes are something that is present in all food in its natural state, but as soon as we cook it, we start to lose the enzymes. So enzymes are massively present in fresh, raw fruit and vegetables. Incredible in fermented foods, because that's one of the things that fermentation does. It creates a really enzymatically and alive food, enzymes and live bacteria, beneficial bacteria. So I always like to emphasize lots of juicing or eating lots of raw fruits and vegetables, lots of salads, and fermented foods. If you have them, naturally fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, just vegetable kimchi, these natural ferments which are really great. Or taking a probiotic or an enzyme supplement can be wonderful. And the reason for the enzymes, it's because enzymes are like little chemical keys that unlock chemical processes throughout the body. So the more enzymes that you give your body, you're going to be facilitating the detoxification process. And you're going to be facilitating your digestion, making everything really easy, strengthening your colon, and so it just all starts to work in sync really, really well.
Well, it sounds like this mostly has to do with diet. Are there other practices, like such as meditation or some sort of physical?
Absolutely, and that's a great point that I often stress in my programs when I'm leading a group through it, is that it's more than just the food. I think you need to start with the food because it's kind of the environment that you're fostering in your body. And if you think about it, all major religious traditions have some sort of fasting for spiritual purpose. In Catholicism you have Lent, you have Yom Kippur, and you have Ramadan. They're in major religions, and then in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, there's also a very powerful practice of fasting for spiritual purposes. And so when you start to do a detox, if you really take the time to set an intention to kind of have a higher purpose for your cleanse, even if it's just kind of nurturing your body, but it could be about emotional health or mental health or spiritual health. And when you bring that dimension into your cleanse, it takes you that much further. It motivates you deeper. So when you add to your cleanse, as you were saying, meditation or journaling, I always actually encourage people to keep a journal while they're cleansing, and I give them one with prompts and questions, because the more that you take time to pay attention to how your body's shifting, how you're feeling, whether you're having cravings or not, or let's say what they call detoxification symptoms, you know, when you're starting to cleanse and maybe not feel so well, and you start journaling about it, you gain an incredible awareness of your body, and you start to relate to your body differently. And then other things too that are really important are body work, maybe getting a massage or giving yourself a massage, skin brushing, dry skin brushing when you take
What is this? Skin brushing? I've never heard of skin brushing
Yeah.
before.
So dry skin brushing is when you take a brush and it's not the thing that you're going to lather up with soap, you know, to scrub your back. You actually, before you get into the shower, you brush your whole body. It's kind of an exfoliating practice. You brush your extremities towards your core, your legs towards your core, and then your abdomen and your back, you brush them in circular motion. And that does two things. It helps to exfoliate, but it also helps to activate lymph movement right under the skin. And so when you're activating lymph movement, as I said before, lymph pulls the sludge out of your cells, and so you're stimulating it to move and clear from your body. Massage also does that. Gentle yoga, or even doing exercise to whatever degree you're feeling energized to do exercise. And general self-care, really cultivating good quality sleep, support in your relationships for your cleanse, creating an atmosphere that is all around supportive of healing is what you really want to do when you're thinking of detoxification. It's not just the 5 things and the food and a few other things that I also want to mention briefly. But so it's a great question. It's a great point, because it's about the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, having a spiritual intention, kind of clearing the clutter mentally, clearing the clutter physically, taking care of your body, getting rest, getting support, all of that emotionally as well. Yeah.
And something you mentioned earlier on about how most people kind of categorize this as like a drug rehabilitation type deal when they hear detox. Do you find that there's a lot to be helped with this, drug situation with the community?
Without a doubt. It hasn't been something really that I have worked with or been interested really in working with. I'm really working with you, me, the average people in the world, everybody who really is of average health or might have some challenges and does benefit greatly from this. I have had smokers quit smoking during the program. And also...
Really? Did it seem easy for them while they were detoxing? It seemed easier?
They get through it quicker.
Oh, okay.
Because they're just cleansing the nicotine from their body a lot more quickly. And they're not just doing that. But, I've also, the other part of detoxification with any program is eliminating, we talked about what you add, the water, the fiber, the colors, but eliminating the things that really burden your body. And those things are everything, all of the non-foods that we consume. So that includes alcohol, sugar, chemicals, and caffeine. Most of those things, or all of those things, are pretty taxing on the body. So you eliminate all of those while you're detoxifying. And I like to do it on a gradual basis. I do what's called a gradual elimination. So on the first week that you're doing your detox program, you eliminate all of these things. So when people are eliminating alcohol for 3 weeks or more, when they come out at the other end, they're now able to create a different relationship with alcohol. Maybe in the past they had to have a drink or 2 or 6 every night when they got home. And now they got to a place where, I can do this a little bit differently. So I know we have just a few more minutes, so I want to get to what are the things that people really want to focus on eliminating while they do a detox, and it's sugar, alcohol, chemicals, caffeine, and the chemicals are artificial sweeteners, artificial colors, artificial flavors, anything that's processed, all of that needs to go. You also are going to want to eliminate the most congesting foods, and the most congesting foods tend to be dairy and flour products. All of the breads, crackers, cereal, pasta that we're eating. So you eliminate all those, and what you're left with is whole foods. Whole grains, meaning whole oats, brown rice, beans, fish, chicken, all of that. And you can do that for a week. And then you clean that even more out, and you eliminate the grains and the meat, which can also kind of burden digestion sometimes. A lot of people are sensitive to grains and they don't realize it. So you eliminate all of that and you go for a week or 10 days, or maybe your first time it's 3 days, like I did with my juicing cleanse, where all you do is fresh fruit and vegetables, salads, lots of juicing, and you can just do that for 2 or 3 days. And then start integrating things back in little by little, one at a time. You add the grains back in. Notice how you feel. Then you add meat back in. Notice how you feel. And you do it one at a time on one particular day. And then especially when you add dairy back in, or you add, say, bread back in, really pay attention. How do you feel?
You feel it, huh?
You feel it, you know. As some people notice it in their mood. Some people notice it in their bloating. They eat cheese and they realize, oh my gosh, I haven't been bloated in 2 weeks. And all of a sudden I'm bloated again. So you really pay attention when you start reintroducing things. But anyone can do 3, 4 days of all fruits and vegetables and do really well. Nice. So is there any last burning question that you have before we wrap up?
I don't know about a burning question, but yeah, well, I guess you kind of went over how short a period of time can be beneficial, but eating so well, it sounds like you could almost do that forever, but I'm sure there's like a time limit you'd recommend.
Yeah, eating that way doesn't suit everybody. Some people do really well on a vegan diet and eat that way for life, and other people really need protein from meat. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And so...
and as a nutritionist, would you think that, where would you draw the line as to healthy and unhealthy?
You can't draw a line and say this is the thing that people need to be eating, because every people have different metabolisms and are going to process food differently.
Okay.
So, but that's all the time that we have for today, and we hope you'll be joining us next week. We have a wonderful show. We're going to have a panel of 3 wonderful practitioners who are all experts on migraines, and I think it'll be a great show. So I hope you'll join us, and thank you for joining us today.